Welcome to my weekly review. Today is Saturday, July 19th, and you're looking at a daily chart of the Nasdaq, which I'm going to switch to the weekly here in a minute. But just a couple of things on the Nasdaq and that it is making new highs and people are, getting excited and that it's, overvalued or getting frothy or whatever. But you got to remember we did have this 27% correction. And so now we have this, 13-week rally, which is, it's getting, rallies usually last between, I don't know, 12 and 18 weeks. I've been over that many, many times. So, I expect it to go on for a few more weeks at least. You know, um, yeah, I see some froth in the market. I'm going to get to that later, but um, when Greenspan said, irrational exuberance in 96, the market, he recognized the froth in the market, but the market continued to rally for another 4 years. Do I expect it to rally another 4 years? Probably not. But, it's probably going to go on for a while, and stocks are going to go a lot higher than you would think they should or would. And that's just kind of the way bull markets run. The rubber band gets stretched to the downside, and now it's getting stretched to the upside, and we don't know how high it's going to go. But the Nasdaq was up 10 points on Friday, 0.05%, closed at 20,895. If we take a look at the weekly chart, you can see here that it was up, first of all, it was up 310 points or 1.5%. But just getting above that 20,204, that's your breakout. So it's been a couple weeks since the breakout. So if you want to count the rally from the follow-through day on April 22, yeah, we're about, I don't know, 13 weeks in, but you could say this thing just broke out, a couple weeks ago. So it depends on your perspective. And if you want to look even longer term, you could say, well, the Nasdaq kind of goes up over time, does it not? Yes. And we've had four bear markets in the last 7 years. And so, yeah, I think this is going to run for a little while longer. Anyway, that's enough for the index. I don't want to talk about the index. I want to talk about stocks. I'm going to start with AMD, NVIDIA, and SMCI. Somebody asked me to do this, so I'm going to do it right at the top so I don't forget to do it. But AMD, NVIDIA, and SMCI since the April 22 follow-through day, which one has outperformed? And you're going to find that it's AMD. Even though the last couple of days it's sold off a little bit, but it's up 82% exactly since the April 22nd follow-through day. NVIDIA 74% and SMCI 69%. So there you go. I got that out of the way for you. You're welcome. All right. I don't want to talk about AMD though, and SMCI and NVIDIA. Everybody's talking about those stocks. I want to talk about earnings because I think earnings are important. I know a lot of people think earnings, it's all about liquidity and momentum. Over the long term, earnings matter. They do. Fundamentals do matter over the long term. I get the short term stuff, and everybody who's into the news and trying to buy stocks and calls and puts based on news, but over the long term earnings. So I'm going to go over a couple of earnings report. This is Wells Fargo. Real negative response to the earnings report last week. And on the flip side, we had Citi, which had a nice response to their earnings report. So you get the good with the bad. The financial um, stocks have pretty much completed their earnings reports for this quarter. So we're moving on next week to like technology and some other groups. So speaking of technology, ASML, they reported on Wednesday morning, I believe, very negative response to weak guidance was the problem there. Now Johnson and Johnson reported, and they had a nice response to their report. So yeah, the drug market has been absolutely brutalized for the last few years. So maybe they'll start to turn it around. United Airlines reported this past week. Yeah, nice response there. Pepsi, if you're into the food packaging group, the beverage, Pepsi had a nice response, but you can see it's been in a clear downtrend for a long, long time. Taiwan Semiconductor reported, real strong report, a nice response, pulled back on Friday just to its 5 EMA there, but strong stocks are trending along the five, so that is definitely one of your strong stocks. And you could see the 30%, 36%, 54%, 3 quarters in a row of accelerating sales growth, 3 quarters in a row of accelerating earnings growth. So yeah, Earnings matter. And if I go to the weekly chart, this is a weekly review, you can see that earnings line heading north and the stock heading north. So yeah, earnings do matter. So does liquidity. I get it. So do interest rates and all the other collateral things. But to me, earnings is very important. All right, enough of that. Abbott Labs reported not a great response, sliced at 200, no bueno. And then Travelers, the insurance companies, which have been kind of beaten up lately. This one had a nice response to its earnings report. And the last one, I think this is the last one, IBKR. Yeah, broke out with a nice report on it broke out on Friday, reported Thursday. And I was just kidding. I got to get to Netflix because Netflix was the first stock that broke out of the April 22nd follow-through day. If I can get here, April 22, right there. It broke out the day before. No, April 22. Yeah, 5% move here on the follow-through day. And it was riding the five for a long, long time. Then recently started running, pulling back into the print, which I liked, pulled back to its 21 here on Thursday and closed, yeah, just a tick above 1% above the 21. But on Friday, after a pretty decent report, you're looking at, accelerating sales growth, accelerating earnings growth. They raised guidance and the stock sold off, closed below. It's 50 there. You could see it's 1.5% below the 50. Kind of a knee-jerk reaction. I don't know. It's kind of a strange response. I know Friday was OPEX day. I don't know. I just think that Netflix is going to respond. This is our number one leading stock on our at mcstockcharts.com since April 19th. We had it there about 900 something bucks, and it ran up to what 1340 something, and now below the 50. So we'll see how Netflix responds in the coming weeks. I think it's going to be fine. All right. Last week was crypto week as deemed by the administration. So we had a lot of news in crypto and we had a lot of, I don't know, I would say kind of bizarre activity. This is Bitmine immersions. I'm going to go through these quickly because, I don't know. It's and a lot of hype around these things. This is not my style, this hype stuff, but it was up 4% last week. SBET was another one. This is an Ethereum play. They did a massive secondary to buy more Ethereum. Yeah, down 20% on Friday. Ouch, that hurts, but up 33% for the week. I did have that one on my ready list, and if you bought it 20, whatever it was, 28, and sold at 40, 39, you did well. If you held on to it, you're probably underwater now or break even there as it closed at 29 bucks. What other ones? Oh, CIFR in this group is another one that I like. Yeah, this one's just starting to handle out here. It got back up to that above the six level. Trading sideways, not bad there. IREN, another one. And this is a data center play. Made this big move. I guess on the weekly, you could say this is like a, high tide flag type pattern, but yeah, I like that one as well. I mean, if you're into this group, I'd rather stick with like the Robin Hoods and the Coinbase if I'm going to play crypto. But Coinbase had a phenomenal week, up at 8 something percent. And I mentioned Robinhood, so yeah, this one was up 11.5%. I had a lot of people on Friday saying, "Man, it spiked at the open on Friday. Should I sell some?" I like the way you think. Yeah, sell the spike. Why not trim some? For me, it was getting to be too large of my portfolio, man. I don't want something 20% of my portfolio like Robinhood. So, yeah, I did trim some on Friday, but I just bought a batch, around the 100 level. So, yeah, I just took some profits, and still, it's more than 12% of my portfolio, but Robinhood is just kicking butt. And the last one I wanted to show is GLXY. This one had it on the ready list the prior week, and it had shook some folks out. If we look at the weekly here, yeah, the prior week right here, it was down 5%, but then blasted higher. And near a buy point there, I guess you could say the old, standard buy point was around, I don't know, 28, whatever the high was here, or 26.60. So just a tick above, but, a little extended from the five there. Yeah, 10% above the five, but yeah, a fast mover. And that's what you sign up for when you buy stuff like this, these high beta stocks. with these large daily ranges, but it's not for everybody. But a lot of people like Galaxy. It has the Ethereum and Bitcoin both combined, so that's another reason people like it. MSTR, of course, is the Popeye the Sailor Man. This is his. He keeps buying more Bitcoin. It was down on Friday, down 2.5% last week, and yeah. Anyway, I'm going to move on from the Bitcoin company. Not that interested in the crypto names. A couple here and there, okay. But I'm more interested in the energy group, the alternative energy, which is the number one group. Now, I've owned GEV for a while now, and that was my go-to one. But I bought LEU because it's been up so much this year. I'm going to go back to the comparison chart if you'll bear with me here for a minute. And I had people mention to me that, it's up so much, it's up 100%. How can you expect it to keep going up? Well, stocks that go up 4, 5, 600% in a year start by going out up 100%. And some of these are just starting to really fire up here. LEU, Oklo, SMR. Yeah, these ones are really, really strong. NNE is a nuclear play. And the other one is I mentioned earlier GEV, which is one that I like as well. And let me see, GEV, let's get this one on here. It's not, it hasn't moved as much as some of these other ones. A little bigger market cap, no more than nano nuclear, but yeah, 75%. I think we'll take that. But my point is, stocks that go up 5, 600% in a year start by going up 100. Now LEU's up 274, Oklo 225, and SMR New Scale Power is up 180%. So definitely a group to keep your eye on. I'm not going to go through the weeklies. I will mention that TLN had news on Thursday evening and popped 25% on Friday. Yeah, and yeah, I like this entire group. GEV to me is a little easier to hold because it's a little calmer, a little quieter, these tight daily ranges, just surfing the five to higher prices. So yeah, I like that one. Anyway, that's enough for the energy group. Got to go to software. Palantir, obviously a leader in the software names, just really strong stock, making new highs. I mean, there's nothing to do here. Up 8% last week. You just hold. It did have a little shakeout a couple weeks ago, right in here, 148 down to 128. But yeah, this thing just continues to march higher. I think it's going much higher than the 150. I'm not going to put a target on it. I'm not going to have a big enough ego where I have to say it's going to be 200. I don't know where it's going to go. I think it goes higher. How about that? Oracle, another leader in the software names, AI play, surfing the five, and that's what strong stocks are doing right now. So if you're doing your weekend auditing and your stock sliced to 21, it's probably time to change out of that stock and get into something that's a little stronger. I know some stocks are, hard to buy. This one had like a short stroke pattern a couple weeks ago. When it ran up June 13th, that week, 24%. Then the next week, it only gave back, 4.5%, so that's like a little more than you'd like on a short stroke pattern. But then it's rallied ever since. Yeah. All right. Oracle, very strong software name. Not as strong as Roblox, though. I keep having people teasing me about Roblox. It was 100. I thought it would have a problem at 100. It kind of did for a little bit, but it went through it like poop through a goose. Closed Friday at 124.50. I know a lot of people saying it broke its upper channel line and blah, blah, blah. It's a climax top, blah, blah, blah. It keeps going higher. So it's going to do what it wants to do, whether you want to call it out for a climax top or not. Up 18% last week. Yeah, finished with that hammer candle, 99% of the weekly range. Probably going higher. Yeah, well above its five there, 5% above the 5 EMA. But yeah, Roblox is a monster. It's all fun and games at Roblox. Cloudflare, this is one that I like, had it on the ready list. It's kind of um, getting a little extended here, a little stretched. Ran up to near 200 there at 198, pulled back to the 21 and found support. And that's what you want to see is your stocks, your stronger stocks finding support. And that's what pullbacks are good for, to understand and learn where your stocks are finding support. Anyway, this one, big demand. Yeah, and you can see it's just broken out of this base recently. And yeah, that's why I said at the top that I think this rally could last a lot longer and a lot longer than you would expect or would think. And you're going to hear a lot of top callers and all that along the way, but just follow the price action is all you need to do. CoreWeave, this is one that I'd called out last week when it slices 21, rallied back up to its 21, got rejected like Matombo. Now it closed like 5% below its 50. Anyway, it made a deal with Coors, bought Coors out all cash, excuse me, all stock. And Wall Street's telling you that it doesn't think CoreWeave stock's worth much because Core Scientific, a $9 billion stock purchase is now 3.9. So, less than half. So that tells you that Wall Street doesn't think CoreWeave stock is worth much. And for now, I mean, it might be later on, but for now, you just got to follow the action, and that's telling you. It speaks loudly. Last software named Twilio, one that I was going to put on my ready list last week, but I didn't because I just had too many names. And there's still a lot of stock set up in bases. This one popped 15% last week, so I'm an idiot for not buying it or putting it on my ready list. But that's the way it goes. Another one was Shopify. Had it on my ready list, obviously, cup with handle, like an elongated handle here. And it was down the prior week, traded tight, close to a moving average. I love that action. And it popped 13%. So there's two that I missed out on. And that's just part of trading. I had Reddit instead, and I still like Reddit. Since I'm doing this, I might as well. Yeah, I like Reddit. Pull back to moving average, trading tight after a big move. It's moving averages are, the faster moving averages are trading above the slower. I still think this is going to pop, and it's going to be on my ready list. It was only up, yeah, less than 2% last week, but yeah, I still like Reddit. Anyway, I digress. I mentioned some froth in the market, and some of this is, these stocks that are losing money and they're just rallying hard. This is a EOS Energy. I know there was news last week, but it went from 369 up to what? 650 on Friday. But if you look at the weekly, I mean, they're losing, no cash flow, no return on equity. Their balance sheet is just, yeah, I mean, sales growth is coming, I guess, 7, 10, 24, 50, but still no earnings. So this is just what I'm talking about, a little froth in the market. They're selling Netflix to buy stuff like this. So that kind of tells you a little bit where we're at in the market. We're just starting to see some, how shall I say, instead of calling it froth, I'll just call it speculation. We're all speculators in the market. We're speculating our stocks are going higher. And some investors are speculating that maybe there's something here to these batteries. QuantumScape is another one that losing money as well. This one's fired up from what, 4 to what, 15, nearly a four bagger. No sales growth, no earnings growth, no nothing here in A. But the stock's going higher, so this is what I'm talking about. Speculation. And there's nothing wrong with speculation. There's nothing wrong with owning something like that. And I look at the up on volume every day, and a lot of the up on volume is stuff below the 200 and just some short covering. This was up on volume a couple days here, 2 days in a row, which should have alerted me. And then it pulled back to its five, found support. Then it really started blasting off the last, I don't know, 8 or 9 sessions here. You could see it. There's your up on volume week. There's your pullback week. Talk about a short stroke pattern. And then, yeah, the last couple of weeks have just really blasted off. So if you have market surge and you look at that up on volume, you'll see that a lot of those are below. There's just like short covering of stocks that have been beaten up and are downtrodden. But you got to pay attention because sometimes they do this, form that little flag as they pull back to a moving average and then pop off the five, pop off the five. This thing's just surfing the five like Stephanie Gilmore. All right. And the last one is ENVX, another, speculative play, batteries. Once again, up on volume, then pull back to the five, and this one's surfing the five now. So just I'm just observing. I'm not saying that I own this or it's making me rich. It's just an observation. Okay, that's all. All right, so I'm going to get out of the speculation. Not really. I'm going to go straight to the space. Another theme. I'm trying to keep these videos short, so I'm going through these quickly. And this is ASTS. Big move, 22 to 54, pull back to the 21, found support in the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 sessions, just ripping higher. There's a nice week last week of 27. Yeah, this is one that I do own because I like to speculate too. I said at the top that, I like earnings, but, I talk out of both sides of my mouth. I like some speculation too. But at my age, I don't want to lose the wealth that I've accumulated. So I'm a little more conservative probably than most, but if I was younger, I'd be aping into this stuff like 50%, something like that. Because you have a job, you're making money, you can, make it back. Obviously, any stock you enter, 5% stop loss, so you're not losing more than 5%. These things are wild. Rocket Lab, another one, rocketing straight higher. Pulled back on Friday to its five. Now, this one was a good trade on Friday. Dropped at the open right here. All it did though was pull back to its five and find support. And that's what I'm saying when you got to embrace these pullbacks. What was it, 47.91? So the five was 47.92. So it's funny how that works to the penny. Rocket Lab pulled back to the five, found support from 47. It bounced up to what, 51.39. So nice trade if you were paying attention. But this one's surfing its five. I think it's going higher, as is ASTS. And another speculative play, making no money. I know they got these flying taxis and maybe a contract with Dubai or something, but they're losing money, no return on equity, no cash flow, no sales. This is highly speculative, but yeah. If I showed you the weekly, oops, sorry for toggling back and forth so quick. Yeah, it was up 48% last week. I think we'll all take a 48% week. Thank you very much. That'll help the portfolio. All right, moving on. Defense. So you got these speculative batteries, the space, you got defense, you got your crypto, a lot of speculation in the market. KTOS is one that's definitely a leader in this defense group. And popped, yeah, man, made a new high on Friday. You can see it surfing its five. That green line is the five. So when it pulls back to the green line, you buy it. And when it pops like that on Friday, then you sell it. That's a good way to trade around a core position. Another one, a little thinner name, DCO, Dukemonen, pull back to its five. Just surfing the five since the breakout here. Super strong name. Like I said, it's thin, but yeah, just blasted out, and it's been running here for quite a few weeks. Another one that I missed at the top because I knew I was going to put it here in defense is GE had a nice report. And all it did was pull back to its five. People get excited like, oh, it's, crashing after earnings. No, you see a lot of wonky moves around earnings because people get the news, they sell the news, right? Buy the rumor, sell the news, and people just want out or they take profits. It's run from 159 up to 72. So yeah, there's going to be some profit taking and just got to let it settle down, wiggle around. Friday had an inside day. I think GE is fine. And anyway, that's enough for the defensive names. I do want to get into there was news on Friday where CVX purchased HESS midstream, and so that opened up a spot in the S&P 500, which I'll get to in a minute. And no, App 11 did not get in, or Robinhood. But anyway, some other names in oil and gas that I'm just monitoring. I don't own any oil and gas stocks, or gold or oil, so just watching here. EQT has been really strong. It's got a natural gas component, and then CRC is another oil and gas play. It's just forming this base here. Nice move on Friday, up 7% last week. So just an observation. I'm not saying run out and take a HELOC on your home and go out and buy California resources, but it's just an observation. All right. I'm going to just go through some of my some of the stocks that have showing relative strength. How about that? I'm just going to go through these quickly. Every morning at mcstockcharts.com, we post the relative strength list, usually about 24, 25, 26 stocks, something like that. And they're just surfing their moving averages, trading above their 10 with some volume, priced above $20. And that one has been doing fine. AEVA. This one I did have on the ready list last week. This one I did buy And yeah, this one I do own. I got a full position in AEVA because it made this big run. Here I am talking out of both sides of my mouth again because I say I like earnings, but these guys are losing money too. Highly speculative name, LiDAR in robots and drones and all that. Um, anyway, it pulled undercut the 21 and then rallied back through. So that's when I bought it there Wednesday afternoon. Had a nice day Thursday, and I know some folks, including our friend Micah, has a position in AEVA technology. So good luck with that, Micah. I'm with you, brother. All right. Another one. No, what was I doing last week? Okay, I did have this one on the ready list. This is ALAB, and it keeps hitting the 100, getting rejected like Matombo. It's done this more than a half a dozen times. On Friday, though, it cleared it 103.99 and closed above it. We'll see what happens next week with ALAB, but yeah, that one just yeah, very frustrating. AU is another one that I had on my ready list last week. Just trading sideways. I don't really want to own gold now. I think gold though is a good hedge at this point. And this one's been up a lot this year. And another comment that AU a gold stock up 100% in a year. Well, like I say, stocks that go up 200, 300% start by going up 100%. This one's pinching in nicely. I don't own AU, but if I was going to own a gold stock, it'd probably be that one. CrowdStrike had on the ready list last week. What did it do? Absolutely nothing. It went down to the 50. I thought it would bounce. It just squatted there. It's going to bounce at some point, but yeah, pretty much flat on the week, down 0.5%. So no great shakes either way. I'm going to leave it on my watch list though, because I think that will bounce at some point. The cybersecurity name sold off the last couple weeks. Not sure why. They're not going to grow to the sky. They don't go straight up. So a little pullback. Support at the 50. Nothing wrong with that. What's my next one that I had? Oh, Google. I had on my ready list last week. Sometimes you just want these slower movers. This one had this obvious cup with handle. It was up every day last week. It's been up like 8 days in a row, but it's just so slowly grinding higher up. 2.7%, which I'll take every week. It had this 3 weeks tight pattern. And then, yeah, it had a nice, yeah, like I said, nearly a 3% week, which reminds me of DoorDash. I was cruising around last night looking at DoorDash. This one had a 3 weeks tight, like 4 weeks ago, and then it ramped. I mean, it blasted higher the following week. This one moved, yeah, almost 10%. And then now it's formed another 3 weeks tight pattern here. The close of two 238.79, 240.44, and 239.17. Is it going to blast higher again? 9%? Maybe, maybe not, but it's definitely on my watch list. Another stock that I like, longer term, DoorDash is a phenomenal stock. So that one will probably appear. Matador I had on my ready list, didn't do anything. Cup with handle, just squatting there. Probably need some time for these moving averages to get through the faster term moving averages to the longer term. But you try to watch all areas, and if oil and gas starts to pick up, that would be one that I would look at. Along with CRC. NRG is another one. This one didn't do anything. Yeah, pretty much flat on the week, up less than 1%. Another one on my ready list was Reddit, which I showed you earlier, and then Rigetti. Nice move for Rigetti, up 40% last week. So yeah, we had some winners last week. I didn't have any losers. Rigetti was one of the big winners, and so was SBET, which I showed you earlier. If you sold it properly, if you didn't, still up 33% on the week. But yeah, it has a gap to fill here too, by the way. The high this week was 22.82, the low is 23.17, so something to watch for with SBET, big, huge, massive secondary offering. And the last one, TOST, yeah, just consolidating in a base. It ramped up, but still, it was a good winner, 7.2% for the week. That's a nice week. Especially if you're playing, options, if you want to supercharge your winnings. That one was a nice one for us. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. Except for in honor of the great Steve Jobs, I do have one more thing. Yeah, one more thing. I was going to go through the drug stocks, but I'm not. I'd mentioned at the top that, well, I think the rally lasts longer, but it's a stock picker's market. It's not a rising tide is lifting all boats market at all. You have to be in those winners, which, are at the top of my page. If you look at the top of the page every morning, those stocks, if you find those on the ready list, then usually you have a nice play like AEVA was last week for us. But there's also a lot of losers out there, and there's a lot of people losing. People were slow to recognize the rally, and now they're kind of FOMOing, trying to get into the market. And so those winners that have been winning are probably going to win some more because you're going to get some FOMO money on the sidelines buying those winners and pumping them up even higher. But there are a lot of losers. And I just have to mention, the transportation air stocks like UPS, complete downtrend. Yeah, I mean, the chemical names, Dow Chemical, I mean, these are in really severe downtrends. I should go to the weekly. This is a weekly review. Yeah, I mean, this is just stage four decline, trying to, form a stage one base, but there's just a lot of areas. The retail group has been hit hard. I know tariffs are part of it, but man, Deckers has just been in a downtrend for a long, long time. There you see a little 4 weeks tight area. Didn't help that stock much. So yeah, the retail shoes, retail jewelry, another group that's just been hammered. This is Signet, and you can see it here starting to perk up a little bit, but man, maybe it'll emerge out of this stage one. This is stage four decline, now forming a stage one base. So yeah, but just a lot of pain there. What else? Oh, the alcohol names. Alcohol, people aren't drinking as much. I don't know. Warren Buffett bought this stock. Maybe he knows something we don't, but man, this is in a massive decline. So, like I said, there's a lot of losers out there. So stick with the winners, stick with what's working. Rig, oil drilling. We're not drilling, folks. Yeah, there's fewer and fewer rigs. That drill baby drill is it's just a catchphrase. It's not a reality. This is another one just absolutely punished. The trucking names. JBHT was another one that reported last week, just trying to find a bottom here. The home builders, this is trying to find a bottom. This is just really a lot of pain. That's going to take a lot of patience there. So a lot of the drug names have been just absolutely punished. Very difficult to buy drug stocks now. This NVO has just been hammered. And even, one of the winners is just doing nothing. So yeah, there's a lot of losers out there that you have to avoid, including the medical managed care group, United Health. Oh gosh, yeah, I can't even look at this stuff. It's too negative. This hurts my brain. Molina Healthcare on the downtrend, and then even the wood stocks, and it could be tariff related, but Louisiana Pacific, another Warren Buffett stock, and yeah, just doing nothing. So there's a lot of losers, and I say stick with the winners. Those stocks that are doing that are looking like that, they're probably going to continue higher, and OUST is another one that's been just ripping higher. There's a lot of them that look like that. So that's what I'm staying with. I'm a front runner. I'm a momentum guy. I like stocks that are going higher. I hate stocks that are going lower. So I try to keep it simple. Don't ever lose more than 5% in any trade. You can afford a lot of 5% losers with, every one of your, if you got Oklo and you've had a four bagger or whatever, 17 to 73, whatever. It even went from 5 to 73, depending upon where you bought it. But my point is, you can afford a lot of 5% losses with, every now and then you get a two bagger, a three bagger, a four bagger. And that's the formula that you're looking for. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up.